450 million citizens. It's 450 million reasons to be better prepared. Today's threats facing Europe are more complex than ever, and they are all interconnected. For 3 years in Ukraine, we have seen a battlefield of bombs and bullets, drones, fighter planes, trenches, and submarines. Yes, our European security is directly threatened by this. It is also threatened by other battlefields. The battlefields in our pockets, our phones, our computers, our power plants, our banks, our supply chains, our raw materials, and in the media, the social media we consumed every day. These are all battlefields, and they are being weaponized to threaten our European way of life and our democracies. And the EU has two ways of responding. We can stick our head in the sand and act like it isn't happening. Or we can look these threats scarily in the eye and say, this is the reality we are facing and we will prepare. You know, since the start of my mandate as Commissioner for Preparedness, I have visited countries here in Europe and halfway across the world. Ukraine, Poland, Italy, France, and even Bangladesh. And earlier this week, I visited the port of Antwerp, a critical area in the center of Europe for mobility, but also military mobility and goods, of course. I've seen firsthand how different countries and locations prepare for emergencies depending on geopolitics or their geographical also position. Being prepared is certainly different from one country to another. There is no one-size-fits-all. I've exchanged ideas, best practices with local authorities and experts on the ground, and these exchanges have contributed to making this strategy concrete, targeted, and operational. In the EU, we must think different because the threats are different. We must think bigger because the threats are bigger also. And this strategy does precisely that, setting out 30, it means 30 concrete actions. We are getting everyone on board in every sector, from governments, localities, institutions, businesses to communities, citizens and volunteers. We already have a strong crisis response tool, but we can no longer rely on ad hoc reactions. We must be on the front foot, more proactive, more coordinated, more systematic, detecting threats earlier and acting faster as well. That's why we are setting up a new EU crisis coordination hub to coordinate better when a crisis hits. And this hub will build on the expertise of our Emergency Response Coordination Centre, the ERCC, to better support member states in managing today's crisis. And we are also beefing up our Union Civil Protection Mechanism, the UCPM, our protective shield in times of emergency. It coordinates aid, mobilizes emergency teams and delivers life-saving assistance when floods, but also wildfires and other disasters strike. We have done it in Spain, in Ireland, in Mozambique, in Mayotte, and just recently, last week, in North Macedonia, with more than 50 burn victims of a nightclub fire being taken care of in EU hospitals. So when we get the call, we go. And I will invite you to have a look on this slide behind me. As you can see from the slide, requests for assistance have grown up over 10 times since the UCPM started. In 2002, it's there you see, when it was created. Of course, we had 2020, the COVID pandemic, and then also 2022, the war in Ukraine, which represented our largest UCPM operation. And we are active not only in Europe, but also across the world, and for many different types of crisis. And this clearly shows that our UCPM is more important than ever. And that's why we are making it even stronger with a hub creating inside this system. In this new strategy, we are also reinforcing Rescue, our European safety net. This strategy reserve helped the EU respond to every type of emergency with firefighting planes, stockpiles of vital medical, energy and transport equipment, and specialized assets against chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear threats. We will propose an EU-wide stockpiling strategy to ensure access to critical resources across the EU, and you can discover, maybe behind me, the next slides will be what rescue our strategic reserves around the European Union, you see, and it's secret places, but you see where we have our stockpiling strategy. But we want to upgrade that, to reinforce our capacities of providing teams and experts in case of emergency. So the EU will also work with member states to make sure people have essential supplies for at least 72 hours in a crisis. We are also getting more young people involved. Programs like you mentioned, Roxana, like Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps will help build a new generation aware, trained and ready to act in case of emergency. Young people also have the know-how to spot misinformation, and all this will make our society stronger and build trust in our democracy. To conclude, I think that this is once in a generation moment for the security of Europe. Strengthening our preparedness will be certainly an essential part of this. And when we prepare together, we are safer together. And now it's time to implement it. I will conclude with a couple of words in French. Je pense que après la pandémie de Covid-19, nous évoquions tous ce monde d'après. Vous vous souvenez certainement que nous parlions du monde d'après. Aujourd'hui, le monde d'après, il est là. Plein de guerres, malheureusement, de crises, de dangers, de catastrophes naturelles qui se multiplient, et nous devons lui faire face avec méthode, avec responsabilité, avec sérénité aussi, et en prenant tout le monde à bord. Ce sont les trois piliers de cette stratégie que nous développons. Elle part des citoyens lambda, j'ai envie de dire, jusqu'au plus haut niveau, au niveau des différentes couches de gouvernement, au niveau aussi de l'Union européenne. Nous voulons une approche qui prenne tout le monde en considération et qui ne laisse personne derrière. C'est aussi ça, l'Europe, c'est un projet de paix et de solidarité, et se préparer aux dangers avec sérénité, c'est aussi consolider notre projet d'union basé sur la paix et la prospérité. Voilà, je vous remercie.